Grab some plastic cups to make this sparkly holiday decor. I was at the dollar store the other day and grabbed a pizza pan and several packs of plastic cups. To make sure that my cups have lots of sparkle to them, I started by dipping each one in clear glue and then into some iridescent glitter. You can also use hot glue around the rim of the cup to hold the sparkles as well. Once I sparkled up about 45 cups, I let them sit and dry overnight. With the cups all dry, it's time to start assembling this fun piece. I'm going to use this large Tupperware lid in the middle of the pizza pan to help me keep the cups centered and in line. This will make it a lot easier when I'm attaching them. To attach them all together, I'm going to use a little hot glue to the base of one and then stick it to another cup. Hold them for a couple of seconds while the glue dries. I find this works best to keep them in line. I'll keep doing this until all of the cups are around and attached on the bottom layer. With the bottom cups all attached, I want to start weaving some small battery-operated lights around the cups. These lights have a remote control, so they're perfect for this project because I can just turn them on and off from anywhere. Now that I have the lights weaved in and out of the base layer, it's time to add another layer of cups. I'll keep using the hot glue to attach the cups until I have filled the dome in. I'll also weave the lights around the cups as I continue to go. When I get to the top of the dome, I can't quite fit an entire cup in, so I've trimmed off the bottom and then it fits in perfectly into that last space. Before I can hang my sparkle ball, I want to make a way to hang it that's a little bit easier. So that's where the pizza pan comes into play. I'm going to give it a good sanding with a sanding sponge to scuff up that slick surface. Now I'm going to use some white paint to cover one side. And while the paint is still wet, I'm going to add the same glitter I used on the cups and sprinkle it all over the pizza pan. Once the paint is dry, it's time to finish off my new sparkle ball. The glitter's all stuck into place on the pan, so I don't have to worry about that falling off. And I want to add the battery pack before I add the dome of cups. A little hot glue around the edge of the pan is enough to keep all of the cups in place. I'm going to finish this with just adding a little string on the back that'll allow me to hang it, and I'll be back in just a moment to show you how pretty and sparkly it looks. So we're going to start by taking our paper cup, and you're going to need your hot glue gun, and you want to put a line of hot glue right around the bottom of your cup. We're going to take our twine and we want to cover up that bottom lip of the cup. So put this as close to the bottom as you can get it. And we're going to go all around the whole way the bottom of this cup here. So I'm just going to keep adding some glue and putting my twine in it. If you find that your twine is tightly woven, you can also just unfurl it a bit as you're working and just twist it to open it up a little bit. That will fill it in a little bit better. So we're going to keep going around here, putting your twine, and you want to make sure when you get back to the beginning that you do fill in that little gap. So I'm going to go right to where I started with a little bit of glue, and then I'm going to twist my twine up to the next layer. And we want to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue around. You don't need much. And I'm going to put this twine right over top of it, creating a second layer of twine. And now I'm back to that seam again. So I'm going to put a little hot glue right in there to hold it in place. I'm not going to cut my twine. I want to keep this all one piece. So I'm going to leave that as it is and just keep my twine attached. And I want to take a pair of scissors and I want to make 7 cuts in my cup from the top all the way down to my twine line. And you want to kind of get as close as you can without snipping it. So they're going to be about an inch, a little more than an inch in diameter or in width, and we're just going to cut it right down like that. And you want to make sure that there are 7. You need an odd number for this project. So we've got 4. Okay, Perfect. So I've got my cuts in here, and now that I've got my cuts in, I want to put one more layer of twine around the bottom, and that's going to cover up those bottom slits, just any of the little cuts that I made at the bottom. And now that I'm back at that back seam again, I'm going to put just a little dab there to hold it in place. And now I want to take my strips and bend them down. I want to bend it right down to that glue line as close as I can get it. And I'm going to open these up like this. Again, I haven't cut off my twine because I want to keep working with the same one long piece. And now that I've got my paper cup open, we're going to start weaving our twine. To turn our cup into a basket, we need to start weaving now that we have these pieces folded down. So what we're going to do is start going around, and we're going to go over top of one, under the next one. Over top of the next one, under the next one. So just like you're weaving, you want to keep going around, one on top, one behind. One on top, and then one behind. And you want to just keep going around, keeping those tabs down for now. We're going to keep them down. And you want to keep going in and out around your cup. And we're going to do that quite a few times. We're going to keep going around, adding to it. So you can see on the outside here, it's starting to come together, it's starting to weave. And again, if you see any pink or whatever color your cup is through the twine, don't worry, we're able to fix that at the end and move it around a little bit. So we're going to keep going here. Again, these are just starting to pull in naturally. You can see my pieces are starting to get closer together. So I'm going to trim them off again. It'll just make it easier to keep working. Okay, when you start to get to the height that you're going to leave it at, I'm going to add a bit of a dab of hot glue onto the inside just to hold my twine in place. So I'm just adding a little dab right there. And I'm going to put my twine right into that glue and just hold it for a second so it dries. And then I want to trim off these excess pieces. So don't worry, we're going to cover up that little lip in a minute, but you want to try and cut those pieces as close down to your twine line as possible. You may need to add a little dab of hot glue to the outside or the inside just to hold the twine in place. You want to be very careful not to cut your twine, so you may have to just push it down a little bit with your fingers and then snip that paper off. So now that we've got that snipped off, we want to go ahead and put a couple of layers of the twine just around to finish that edge off and to cover up that top, those top pieces of paper. So you can just use your hot glue, put it around, and just put a couple layers of twine to cover that up. So I'm going to start with one outside. So I'm just going to go around with a little bit of hot glue, take that same piece of twine, I'm just going to loop it back around there and start going around the outside. And I'm going to do that the whole way around with just a little bead of glue. And once I'm back to where I started, I'm going to put another one on top, almost creating a top to the basket. So this one's going to sit right up on top. And again, you just want a really small bit of glue so that you don't see it through your twine. And now that I've got that top edge finished, I want to go ahead and put another row on the inside just to cover up the tops of the paper on the inside and finish this basket off really nicely on the inside. You may need to do 2 layers on this on the inside depending on how thick your twine is. And then when you're back to where you feel like you've started, you can go ahead and snip your twine and just make sure that that is glued down in place. So now on the outside, if there's any areas that you feel like you haven't covered up, you can go ahead and place, especially at the bottom where we created those slits, you can go ahead and run another piece of twine around there. So we're just going to fill that in, and you'll start it here and just fill that in. It's going to fill in that seam where we cut and the paper was wiggling around as we were weaving. If there are any spots where you feel like your twine has not covered well, you can always stick your glue gun in and add a little dab of glue. You can also move your twine around up and down those pieces to finish that off if you need to. Now we want to go ahead and create a little handle for our basket. So I'm going to take a piece of wire and I'm going to straighten it out here. And I don't want to create a huge handle on this. I don't want it to look so much like an Easter basket as just like a little spring basket for something. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out my piece here. And remember to leave a little bit for putting down onto the sides, making sure you have enough to glue it down. So I'm just going to snip that off. And then I want to cover my piece of wire with my twine as well. So my wire is pretty flexible. It's got some kinks in it, but you're not going to see that once the twine is over top. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on here. Now, glue doesn't stick very well to this, but the twine will stick to itself. So I'm just going to put that in, wrap the twine around, and you won't see this little bit because it'll be down below the edge of the basket. And then I can snip off my twine and just stick that end into the glue so it's hidden. Okay, so we've got our little piece of wire wrapped in the twine here, and we want to go ahead and put it onto our basket. So you can decide where you want this on, and we're just going to bend it, give it a nice curve. So we've got a nice little curve there, and then we just want to attach this to the inside of the basket. And you can use some hot glue for this because you're not going to see the inside if you're going to be filling it, but you can tuck this inside of your twine if you don't want to see the end of the basket. Sorry, the end of the handle there. So I'm going to be filling my basket, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to put a bunch of hot glue here and stick it right inside the lip of the basket. I'm going to hold that in place until it's dry, and then I'll stick the other side on. These sweet little baskets are so adorable and were so much fun to make. All you need is a paper cup and some twine. How fun is that? They're perfect to pop into any little space and add a little rustic touch. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Home Talk. I'm Lisa from Recreated Designs. I'll see you next time.